All right, today in lesson 4, we're going to get into multiplying integers, right? And you should have the link for the integer rules, right? Just a recap. We started with adding and subtracting, and we use these rules to determine if the result would be positive or negative, right? We're going to have rules for multiplication and division as well. And we'll look at it with multiplying two integers together, and then we'll look at it when we multiply even more together. But when you multiply two integers, there's four possibilities with the numbers. For example, right, you could multiply a positive times a positive, right? And you've done that for years in your math curriculum, right? And I multiply a positive times a positive, and my result is going to be a positive. Now, if we multiply a negative times a negative, the result is also a positive. So basically, when you have the same signs, right, either both positive or both negative, in multiplication, the result is a positive. Now, you could multiply a positive times a negative, so they're opposite signs, right? And my result is going to be a negative. Or change the order and multiply negative times a positive, right? You still have opposite signs. Your result is going to be a negative. So those are the four possible outcomes when multiplying two integers together. So use this as a reference until you start to get the understanding of what it should be. So here I look 2 times 3, right? I'm just looking at their values. When I multiply 2 times 3, right, and we're doing these without calculators, I get 6. Now I got to determine, is that going to be positive or negative, right? Since they're opposite signs, so there's only one negative times a positive, my result's going to be a negative, right? 6 times 1 is 6. I have one negative, right? My result's going to be a negative. Here, negative 2 times 4, right? If I take 2 times 4, I get 8. There's only one negative, so my result is going to be a negative 8. Right? Negative 1 times positive 5, right? Just 1 times 5 is 5. My result should be a negative. Looking at number 5, negative 4 times 2, right? It's 8. Since there's one negative, it's going to be negative 8. Here, negative 2 times negative 4, right? They're both negatives. The result will be a positive 8, right? Remember, with positives, we could write a plus sign there, but you don't have to. It's understood to be a positive. Here, negative 3 times negative 1, right? I multiply those together. Same signs, going to be a positive. Negative times negative, right? That should be a positive 12. So let's extend that, right? And you have your integer rules here, right? Same sign. When you multiply, the result's going to be a positive. When you multiply opposite signs, right, that's when you get a negative. Now, scroll down to these examples here at the bottom of page 235. All right. So looking at example C, right here, the negative 12 times negative 4, right? When I multiply two negatives, it's going to be, the result should be a positive, right? So I'm just going to multiply 4 times 12 and get 48. Negative and negative, same signs. My result is a positive value. Now, the exponent, okay, the exponent here, right? We have to understand what that power means. It's negative 5 to the second power, or negative 5 squared, which really means that I take the base of negative 5 and I multiply it by itself, right? Negative 5 times negative 5 is going to give me a positive 25. So whenever you have an even power, right, squaring a number, it's always going to be positive, right? Whenever you square something, the result will be positive because it's times itself, meaning if this is your base and multiplying by itself, right, negative and negative, they're going to have the same sign. So that'll always be positive. Now, looking here at the example where I multiply 3 numbers together, right? And I can do them 2 at a time, and the order doesn't matter, right? With multiplication, we can pick any order we want. I'm going to start with -7 times -5. And when I multiply, that's going to give me 35. Positive 35, right? Because they have the same sign. And then I'm going to multiply that by -3. So I take 35 times -3, and the result is going to be 105. And since there's opposite signs, right, there's one negative there, my answer is going to be negative. So really, when you have an even amount of negatives, right, 2 or 4 or 6 multiplied together, the result's going to be positive. But when there's an odd, right, these two multiply to get a positive, but I still have this negative. So if there's an odd amount of negatives in multiplication, your result will be negative. All right, scroll down to page 236, and I want you to pause the video here, and I just want you to try example 1, 2, and 3 in the guided practice. So number 1, 2, and 3. And try those 3 and then check back to see how you did. All right, let's see how you did there, right? First one, a 6 times -10 should be -60. Number 2, this was -3 to the 3rd power, which means -3 times -3 times -3. Right? You multiply this base by itself 3 times, right? That's what that power means. So I would get a positive 9 times -3, end up with -27. Here, -1 times -3 is +3. And then I bring down that -4. So 3 times -4 is -12. All right, let's look at a story example here. On page 237, we're looking at number 7 here. All right, it says Ethan burns 650 calories when he runs for an hour. Right, so he burns 650, right? He's losing 650. So if I were going to represent that, right, he'd be burning 650 calories. And that's in 1 hour. Suppose he runs 5 hours in a week. So there's a couple ways that we could do this, right? I could say, okay, so here's the first hour, and then we're going to add a -650 for the second hour. I'm going to add a -650, right? And we would do that for 5 hours, right? So I could do -650 plus -650 plus -650. Sorry, that doesn't look the greatest there. And I could do that. But remember, repeated addition is just multiplication. So I can take this, right, -650 per hour, and I can just multiply that by 5 hours that he's going to do that, and that would give me my total, right? So let's do this. Take a minute and multiply this out, right? There's some a little bit bigger numbers here, right? But we're not using a calculator. And I know the result, if he's losing 650 a day, the result's going to be negative, right? Because, and I also know my integer rule says if they're opposite signs, it's going to end up being negative. So take a minute and see if you can multiply that out. All right, should have gotten -3,250 calories, right? So he burns 3,250 calories if he ran that 5 hours in a week. All right, a couple more that I want to look at here, right? Getting into our evaluate expression problem. So if I look here, let me scroll down. So page 239, and it gives me the representation, right? A is equal to -6, B is -4, C is 3, and D is 9. All right, so remember when we want to evaluate these, right, I put a parenthesis around the variable, right? So this would be -5. And instead of writing C in there, I write its value, which is 3. So I would do -5 times +3, and that should be a -15, right? When number 28, there's A times B times C. So I'm going to fill those in, right? So A is -6, B is -4, and C is +3. So if I multiply the -6 times -4, that would give me +24, right? And then I can multiply that by 3. So 24 times 3 should give me +72. So what I would like you to do for your assignment today, for your homework practice, I want you to work on 19, 20, 21, 22, 29, 31, and 32, right? And on the agenda for today, these numbers are marked. And then you can check, there will be an answer key posted there as well. So after you do those problems, you can check your work and see how you did. As always, email if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great day.